In my last video, you saw the full financial crisis, the bankruptcy, the mistakes, and the 36K pension that just isn't enough. Well, in today's video, I'm sharing the solutions. These 5 decisions are what ultimately helped me to cut my expenses in half and leave a toxic workplace for my health. Number 1, I leveraged home equity to pay off major debt and secure financial stability. I purchased a townhouse that grew in equity by 66% in the 6 years that I owned the house. And that is highly unusual. It's a really big percentage for such a short amount of time. So I did 2 things with this equity. First, after 3 years living in the home, I noticed its value had increased significantly, so I decided at that time to refinance. And by doing so, I lowered my interest rate. I eliminated the PMI, and so my monthly mortgage payment was lowered. And I was able, through cash back, to pay for the broken HVAC system, pay off my outstanding pension loan, and begin building an emergency fund. Refinancing did involve closing costs and fees, and it did add additional years onto the mortgage. But the next thing I did made none of that matter. So my next move was to sell the house last year in 2024 during a very hot local seller's market. Overall, I was unhappy with that first home, even though it was in a very desirable neighborhood and it had a great school system. I happened to live next door to a drug dealer. So even though it was like a super safe neighborhood, I didn't feel safe. Also, within a couple of months of moving in, I had to start making significant repairs, like to the plumbing, and I already mentioned I had to replace the entire HVAC. And the HOA was corrupt. It was a losing battle trying to fight them. So due to these reasons, I have been willing to make that refinance with the intention of eventually selling the house at a profit, which is exactly what happened. In fact, it was a huge profit, which allowed me to buy my current house with 47% cash. More on that later. Number 2, I aggressively erased consumer debt and student loans. I used what's called the avalanche method to pay off my revolving credit accounts one at a time. And in doing so, I freed up my monthly cash flow and I improved my credit score. I also applied to have my undergraduate student loans forgiven through the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. So I went from owing 65K to 15K. That's around a 77% deduction. Number 3, I relocated out of state and downsized expenses. So I lowered my overall cost of living by moving from New Jersey, which is a very expensive state to live in, to the more affordable Delaware. New Jersey had extremely high property taxes. I was paying 7K annually. And now in Delaware, my property tax is under 2K. Also, there's no sales tax in Delaware. And that makes a huge difference when buying big ticket items like appliances and services. Like I mentioned earlier, I've already paid off almost half of the original sales price through the proceeds from the sale of my New Jersey home. And so my mortgage here in Delaware is significantly lower than it was in New Jersey. I also used some of those proceeds to finish paying off my car. So that's another bill that I eliminated. And as far as downsizing my expenses, there are several things that I've done. So, first of all, in shopping for a home this time around, I was very careful to make sure to buy a house that was in better shape. So, this way I wouldn't be entering into an unknown situation and making several repairs like what happened in the other place. Um, I I made sure to hold the previous owner responsible for any repairs that were noted in the inspection that would have been safety issues or a very high expense. So he had to either repair those things or give me credit toward it. And so that took a load off. Now, I did walk into the situation knowing ahead of time that the HVAC was at the end of its life. So I had already put aside money in preparation for replacing that, which I did wind up having to do. But other than that, I've been here over a year now and there have been no major repairs needing to be done. So everything is set. The roof was recently replaced. And so it's a better situation where I don't have these high expenses to repair things anymore. I've also significantly downsized my expenses by making a commitment to eat most of my meals, the majority of my meals at home. I do eat out occasionally, especially if I'm traveling. I might stop and pick up a value meal once or twice a month. And then there are a few times a month where I will grab a small treat. And it's important for me to allow myself treats and just to relax sometimes, just so I don't burn out. But the vast majority of my meals are at home. So the only subscription that I pay for is PBS, and that's $60 annually. Now, my I also have Netflix, but that's through my phone bill. And since my phone bill is only $140 a month, and that's for 2 lines, I don't really feel that Netflix bill because I feel like my phone bill is a pretty reasonable amount. So I don't really count the Netflix bill. And what I do is I share my subscriptions with family members and they share theirs with me. So I also have access to Amazon and Spotify, Disney Plus, Hulu, HBO, things like that. Number 4, mastering the financial foundation, building literacy, tracking spending, and designing a lifelong budgeting culture. So these are things that I have been working on for many years and continue to work on now. But they have contributed greatly to my ability to pull this early retirement off. And so I started reading personal finance books several years before retiring. At that time, I didn't believe that I would ever retire. But through reading these books, I learned that it's not too late to, for example, start investing. And so I opened up a Roth IRA. And I learned the value of my pension, even though it's a partial pension, it's very valuable. And not just the pension itself, but the entire retirement package, which includes health insurance. So I learned how valuable that is and how rare it is for someone my age to even have a pension. And so I've come to see how important that is in the success of my early retirement. And I also learned through my reading, and I'm learning through my reading, that it's still possible for me to become financially independent if I prioritize that goal in my life. So I tracked my expenses and spending for an entire year from after relocating here in Delaware from from November 2024 to October of 2025. And by doing this, it has helped me to create a realistic budget for 2026. By tracking and budgeting, I've become very familiar with my cash flow. So I know my habits, my limits, and how to make adjustments from month to month. I can adjust my variable expenses like food and spending from month to month as needed. Also, I've already saved a $3,200 expense fund for 2026. And so that includes things like my HOA fee, taxes, and any maintenance needs for the house. And I currently have a few $1,000s saved up as an emergency fund, which I plan to max out at $6,000 by May of 2026. And meanwhile, I've started saving each month toward an expense fund for 2027. So by the end of this year, I will have that fully funded. And the number 5 reason is the decision to build a multi-stream income plan. So my retirement income will come from my pension, part-time or seasonal work, passive income, investments, and eventually Social Security. I currently work seasonally, scoring the written portion of standardized tests. I have a Roth IRA. It's invested in BT stocks and bonds. And depending on how much income I make in 2026, I do plan to make contributions to the Roth IRA. I am close to monetizing here on YouTube, so that will be a source of semi-passive income. Now, in my previous video, I mentioned that I had been recruited for a tech job interview. Well, I got as far as a tech screening call, and the recruiter said that I performed okay, but that I was up against someone with 10 years of experience for that particular role. He said that I was competitive because of my developer skills, but I haven't heard back from him in a couple of weeks, so maybe I've been ghosted. But as I mentioned in previous videos, I'm not super excited about working full time again. I'm really enjoying my retirement experience. So I stopped studying tech, to be honest. A few months ago, I stopped studying tech and I stopped applying to jobs. Not that I was applying much anyway, but I completely stopped putting in applications. But if somebody's going to come seek me out and recruit me to apply for a job, I'm not going to turn them away. It's good to know, though, in general, that the tech job market is opening back up because shortly after being contacted by the first recruiter, I was contacted by another recruiter. But again, I think I've been ghosted by both of these recruiters. But I'm just saying it is good to see that now it seems like people will have more opportunity to at least apply for these tech jobs than they did since for the last, I would say, 5 years. Has it been 5 years? Yeah. Anyway, it's okay if I don't get the dream tech job. While it would give me a huge financial boost, I'm not really sure that I want to go back to working a 9 to 5 job and to start over in a whole new profession after successfully completing a career of 25 years in teaching. But we'll see how it goes. I'll definitely keep you updated. Meanwhile, I also plan to sit with some advisors early this year of 2026 and just go over my financial plan to see how I'm doing and what steps I might want to take in the future, as well as I want to begin creating an estate plan. So I'll also keep you updated on these experiences. Now that I have shared my top 5 radical financial decisions, I want to address some of the negative comments that I got on my last video. First of all, I want to thank everyone who left such positive, uplifting comments. I really have always enjoyed interacting in the comments, and I think with this subject matter, it is important to do that. And so I do prioritize reading every comment and responding. And I appreciate the encouragement. It really means so much to me. And it helps me to know that I'm not alone and that what I have to say is important. My story it's important that I share my story, and that's what I'm going to keep doing. I got a lot of comments that were pure hate. And so I either reported those or blocked them. However, there were some negative comments that did contribute to the discussion. It's just that they added that little negative, nasty jab in there, so I did have to block them. But one thing that came up a lot was about my pension. So one commenter said that my pension is a safety net. They equated it with being able to fall back on family members or a spouse. And I disagree with that. My pension is an earned benefit based on making contributions throughout 25 years in my profession. So this commenter's goal, it seems, was to dismiss the relevance of my story due to my pension, due to my having a pension. And I just need to say that we are all on different paths. We're all on our own paths, and our paths will look different. So, yes, I have the advantage of a pension. Some people have high paying jobs. Some people do have family members that they can fall back on or a spouse. Some people have an inheritance or a trust fund. Some people have hit the lottery or have had a judgment ruled in their favor or have a big insurance settlement. What matters most to me is not what the resource or the resources are that I have, but how I choose to use them. And I feel that I have maximized my resources very wisely by making those 5 strategic financial moves. So just merely having a $36,000 annual pension is not a safety net. That wouldn't have paid the bills in New Jersey. It was my decision to eliminate other debt, to relocate, and to downsize my expenses that are making my pension work for me. And my pension is currently paying all of my bills. So to me, that was a very smart way to maximize the resources that I have. What about you? Please comment below if you would like to tell about whatever financial resources you have available to you and what you do to maximize what you have. I would love for you to share. And the other thing I wanted to quickly talk about was that came up in the comments a lot was ageism and the effects of ageism. So I wrote a response to one of those comments. I'm just going to read it because I like how I worded it. So I said, yes, ageism is a very real barrier, and I want to validate that struggle. However, my strength, experience, determination are more powerful than any unfair bias. I have decades of knowledge and proven skills that are priceless, and those skills give me options. Whether I choose to stay retired with multiple streams of income or pursue a new career, I am equipped with wisdom that will help me thrive. I know many of you have asked for more information about my 403B, the bankruptcy that I talked about in the last video, and other things like how we can financially educate the younger generations. I do plan to take deeper dives into these subjects. Keep watching. Follow my journey as it unfolds by subscribing. And if you found this video to be useful, please give it a like and share it with other people who might also be interested. Thanks for supporting my channel. Stay inspired and keep thriving.